South Korea's KF-21 Boramae program has entered a phase where public discussion is no longer driven by curiosity or national pride alone, but by a more demanding and mature question: what kind of military power does South Korea actually intend to become? In recent years, domestic audiences have shifted their focus away from whether the KF-21 can fly or whether it looks modern enough, and toward whether its future variants can meaningfully strengthen national security while reducing long-term strategic dependence. This is why the discussion around a potential KF-21 Block 3 has gained such traction inside South Korea. It is not about chasing headlines or matching foreign fifth-generation fighters in appearance. It is about whether Seoul is quietly building the foundations of an indigenous, stealth-capable combat aircraft that fits Korea's unique strategic reality. From the beginning, the KF-21 was never conceived as a dramatic leap. Block 2, which will form the backbone of early operational service, reflects a deliberately conservative approach. External weapons carriage, limited signature reduction, and a strong emphasis on reliability and production stability were not compromises forced by weakness, but choices shaped by experience. For the Republic of Korea Air Force, the immediate priority has always been readiness. An aircraft that can be produced in meaningful numbers, maintained domestically, and integrated smoothly with existing command and control systems, carries more value than an overly ambitious design that risks delays and overruns. Korean audiences increasingly recognize that Block 2 is not an endpoint, but a necessary foundation. The conversation changes when Block 3 enters the picture. Unlike Block 2, Block 3 is not defined by a single public specification or fixed timeline. Instead, it represents a direction of travel: internal weapons bays, deeper radar cross-section reduction, more advanced sensor fusion, and higher levels of avionics autonomy are all elements discussed by analysts and defense insiders. For Korean viewers, the key issue is not whether these features match those of established stealth fighters, but whether they are sufficient for the missions South Korea actually faces. Stealth, in this context, is not a binary concept. It is a spectrum, and even partial reductions in detectability can dramatically alter survivability in the early phases of a conflict on the Korean Peninsula. One reason Block 3 resonates with domestic audiences is that it reframes the debate. Instead of asking whether the KF-21 is a true fifth-generation fighter, the more relevant question becomes whether it is optimally designed for Korea's threat environment. The Republic of Korea does not require a global power projection platform. It requires an aircraft that can operate under dense missile and air defense conditions, coordinate with allied assets, and sustain high sortie rates over prolonged periods. A locally optimized stealth-capable fighter, even if it falls short of the most advanced foreign designs in absolute terms, can still deliver decisive advantages in this context. Another factor shaping public perception is Seoul's unusually restrained communication strategy. Unlike some defense programs elsewhere, there has been no dramatic unveiling of a Block 3 roadmap, no bold claims of generational superiority. For many Korean observers, this silence is telling. It reflects a strategic culture that prioritizes steady capability accumulation over political signaling. Loud announcements risk provoking regional reactions and creating unrealistic domestic expectations. By contrast, a gradual, almost understated evolution, allows policymakers to adjust plans based on technology readiness, budget realities, and the broader security environment without losing credibility. At the heart of this evolution lies the question of engines. Among Korean defense audiences, there is a growing understanding that true aerospace independence does not begin with airframes, but with propulsion. The current reliance on foreign engines is widely seen as the single most significant constraint on long-term autonomy. Developing an indigenous fighter engine is not merely a technical challenge. It is an industrial and institutional one that requires decades of sustained investment. Block 3, in this sense, may serve as a bridge rather than a final destination. By pushing the limits of integration, thermal management, and avionics complexity, it prepares domestic industry for the demands of a future platform where engine sovereignty becomes realistic. Operationally, Korean audiences tend to evaluate the KF-21 not in isolation, but as part of a layered force structure. The high-low mix concept is now well understood. The F-35A provides penetration and early strike capability, while the KF-21 is expected to form the numerical and operational backbone of the Air Force. In this model, Block 3 does not replace the F-35. It complements it. A partially stealthy KF-21, optimized for regional missions and supported by unmanned systems, intelligence platforms, and long-range precision weapons, offers flexibility that pure reliance on imported aircraft cannot provide. This perspective also reflects a deeper shift in public attitudes. There is increasing skepticism toward technological shortcuts and symbolic achievements. Korean audiences are less impressed by claims of parity with foreign systems and more interested in sustainability. Can the Air Force maintain combat operations without external political constraints? Can upgrades be implemented domestically and at scale? Can the industrial base support continuous improvement beyond initial production? These questions align closely with the logic behind a measured Block 3 development path. When viewed against international comparisons, this approach appears deliberately cautious. Some countries pursue bold, high-risk fighter programs as statements of ambition. South Korea's strategy is different. It emphasizes controlled progression, risk management, and integration with existing alliances rather than dramatic breaks. For domestic viewers, this restraint increasingly reads as confidence rather than hesitation. It suggests a nation comfortable with its trajectory and aware of the long-term costs of overreach. Ultimately, the significance of KF-21 Block 3 lies not in whether it can be labeled a stealth fighter by external standards, but in what it represents internally. It is a test of South Korea's ability to move from licensed production and system integration toward genuine design authority. It is a signal to domestic industry that incremental progress, if sustained, can be more transformative than sudden leaps. And it reflects a broader strategic maturity in how the country thinks about power, autonomy, and responsibility. For Korean audiences, this is why the KF-21 story remains compelling. Block 3 is not a promise of instant transformation. It is an experiment in patience. It asks whether South Korea can resist the temptation of spectacle and instead build a combat aircraft ecosystem that serves national interests over decades. If successful, its true legacy may not be defined by radar signatures or weapons bays, but by the quiet normalization of indigenous capability as a core element of national defense.